YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human. Today is Wednesday, October 26, 2022. The Southern strategy. Democrats must respond to the Southern strategy. This is why you lose elections, because you haven't dealt with the Southern strategy. So many
what do you make of sort of the last 2 weeks here? What should people be talking about?
Well, listen, as I am part of the media now and my side hustle, I'm going to feel free to come after the media because look, Dowd is right. First thing as a candidate is you want to have debate on issues where you have the strength. So don't take debate on making this election all about the economy and inflation, because that's Republican turf. You got to broaden that conversation. But I'm going to take a large swipe at the media. And I think we got to do a better job at reporting. Look, your piece coming in was spot on. Republicans actually don't have much of a plan on how, in fact, to bring down gas prices. And they've not had to answer to that. They don't actually have much of a plan on how to bring down inflation, because we actually know that the president or Congress, that there's no magical button they can push to bring down inflation. Ask the folks in the UK right now. So what's your plan to actually tackle inflation? What's your plan to bring down gas prices? I've been watching ad after ad and congressional battleground districts right now where Republicans simply blame Democrats for inflation and high gas prices, and never talk about sort of how they're going to bring what they're going to do to bring it down. And at some point, as a campaign, the campaign shouldn't have to do all the explaining, right? We in the news as reporters should do more fact finding and more digging in. What exactly is the Republican plan to bring down inflation and gas prices? And they should be asked that every day. They shouldn't be let off the hook on that every single day. They're let off on the hook on it. And the truth of the matter is, as you and I both know, there's no magic silver bullet for bringing down inflation. And if Republicans take back Congress, in fact, their tax cuts. I mean, heck, and speaking of the UK, they just threw out the Republican plan in the UK. The Tories threw out the UK, the same plan that Republicans are going to try to do right here in the United States. So I think we need to do a better job of holding them accountable for what they say they're going to do.
Cornell, I'm so glad that you took this in this direction. It took us as a show about 5 minutes to find prominent Republicans. I think the first one we found was Stephen Moore. And the day that Truss resigned, we showed him celebrating. And he says, the cavalry is coming. We're bringing this to you when we win in 3 weeks. Not only do they promise to do what ended Truss's prime minister tenure in, 2.5 Scaramucci's, they're running on the vapidness of the issues they're trying to politicize. So I don't disagree with Matthew that you're fighting on the wrong terrain, but I do feel that it's part of my responsibility to show that even what they view as strengths are actually weaknesses. They're running on economic policies that are so catastrophic. They ended Truss's prime minister term in a historically short tenure. And then on crime, that's pretty hollow as well. Everyone's scared about crime, but no one's in more danger of being the victim of violent crime than the very people they're blaming for the crime. It is all empty. It is all bankrupt. And you're right, it shouldn't fall to candidates to make all of these points, but it seems that there is something that people are sort of slow walking through that is not based in fact. How do you sort of truth up the conversations in the final 2 weeks?
Well, let me jump in real quickly on this. Here's the uncomfortable part, and we all, and most of us who are students of politics know this. When they're talking about crime, they're not really talking about crime, right? They're talking about, when they're having a conversation about law and order, it is the Southern strategy. It is what going back to Nixon, right? It is a doubling down on tribalism. You remember in 2020, Trump saying, "If I lose, the suburbs are going to be on fire." I remember that. And a lot of people who look like me remember that because that was a threat about the other, right? And it is, can we scare enough white voters so that they will put aside any of their other interests and simply vote for out of fear? out of fear of the other. I've seen these commercials that they put running in Wisconsin. I've seen the commercials they're running in New York, and it's all this fear of the others, of those people coming to take what we have and hurt us. And that is an awfully terrible way to sort of divide this country and double down on tribalism. So I got to call it for what it is. It is a doubling down on the Southern strategy, and it is race matters politics at its ugliest.
And Matthew, what is the answer? What is the response to that?
Well, I mean, I would like to just pile on to something Cornell started, and you know my feeling about this, which is, yes, candidates have responsibility to run the best possible campaigns and do all that, and we've had that conversation over and over. But the media really has a big responsibility. And this is not, I think the media in the last 5 or 6 years has done a disservice to our democracy. Not all, but many in the media. It's this gamification of politics where, let's talk about the forecast model, and let's talk about who's up, and let's talk about whether or not somebody slurred a word at debate, and whether or not they're going to lose their Senate seat, and what are the odds here, and what is all that. And they leave out the danger of what one side winning will do, and not you, Nicole, and what will happen. It's just like, who's up, who's down. To me, it's akin to a weather forecaster saying, a hurricane just is now a category 3. Good night, have a nice evening. And without telling people in a jurisdiction what that might mean, what damage that could do, and what they could do to prevent the damage of a hurricane as it goes. Just the media saying who's up, who's down, where does it stand, let's go to the board, where's the numbers, where are the groups? First of all, I believe the forecasting models are based on a flawed assumption, which is this old idea of approval ratings driving it. This year's proved approval ratings are not driving this. And it's anybody's guess is what's going to happen in this election. We've not seen an election where neither party has a wave coming, and it's going to be completely dependent on who turns out in this election. But I think the media needs to stop with the gaming of the politics and start with, if somebody wins, what does that mean? And what can a voter do about that threatens their own safety, democracy, and all of that? I think it's an incumbent responsibility to get off the game of politics and onto what this really means and the choice really to be had.
That's a perfect place to stop. You get the last word, but I do have to say something in defense of forecasters. Even the forecast now comes with deep analysis of how we got here. I just covered a hurricane, and all of the weather experts and meteorologists had insights about climate change. And, so to your point about deepness, even forecasters sometimes do better than we do. Matt Dowd and Cornell Belcher, thank you very much. You always keep it real, and I really appreciate it. To be continued. When we come back, the twice impeached, disgraced ex-president in newly released audio tapes from his 20 interviews with the Washington Post, Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward will be our guest. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this.
So, in answer to the question, and the answer is the Democrats need a 24/7 respond to the Southern strategy. You have to respond when it's not an election. You have to keep on talking to white people, okay? And let them know that racism hurts them and has hurt them, right? And continues to hurt them. You have to remind them of Dr. King's speech from March 25th, 1965, when in the 19th century, he talks about how black men and white men, how they voted together in fusion coalitions. Black men, newly freed slaves with slavery, you work night and day and night, you get paid zero, right? It's economic, it's labor, free labor, right? Build all the buildings, do all the work. You pay what? Zero, all right? And so the black men and white men got together in the 19th century and voted in fusion coalitions and put in their people that would help make life better for everyone. And how did they stop that? Well, they brought in segregation, right? Part of the Southern strategy. So, but those men, they realized, we don't care what color these men are. We want to help our families, make life better. Everyone wants the same thing. Shoes on their feet, clothes on their back, shelter over their head, food in their stomach, right? Excellent education. Free healthcare like the rest of the world, right? And if you have insurance already, good, you keep it. But everyone should have it, okay? And so the point being made is this. Read the book Dog Whistle Politics by Professor E. Haney Lopez. Dog Whistle Politics. how coded racial appeal have reinvented racism and wrecked the middle class. Look at Lee Atwater. I'll go on YouTube. Watch what he said about the Southern strategy, right? The fact is that Democrats, all colors, okay, all colors, you have to deal with it, all right? Like Cornel Burke just got finished dealing with it, right? And they've had people on MSNBC who have dealt with it. I think one expert said white people need to talk to other white people about the fact that they're being railroaded, okay, that they're using race to divide. Google the Southern strategy and look how it's been used, all right? Listen, there's one race, human race, we're all human, but you have to deal with it, all right? Most white crime happens by white people. Most black crime happens on black people, right? White on white crime, black on black crime. That's a fact. Look at the data, all right? No one wants crime, period. How do you eliminate crime? Create jobs. And one way to create jobs is do what FDR did, right? How he created jobs for everybody during the Depression. And life got better for everybody, right? So the point is, you must talk to people in a loving, kind way. Jesus said, I'm come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. The two greatest commandments, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Who's your neighbor? Look at Luke chapter 10, right? Verses what? 25 to 37. Good Samaritan parable. Preacher messed up. Deacon messed up. Samaritan showed love, compassion, concern for the person in need. That's what it's all about. Compassion, concern, agape love for everyone. Doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from. We're all human beings. One race, human race, all human. By the way, we need to have an assault weapon ban, like the one that the Republicans allowed to expire back in 2004, to protect our children, protect our police, protect our citizens. And the police, right now, they are ministers, imams, priests, rabbis, social workers, psychologists, you name it, all right? And we need to have programs so the police can do their job, all right? And they don't have to be the ministers and the rabbis, the psychologists, et cetera, okay? So again, bring people together, deal with the Southern strategy. Right now, you should be saying, you know what? We need white women. We need the white Republican women who don't believe that 10-year-old girls should become mothers. All right. Now, if you believe a 10-year-old girl should become a mother, that's different. But if you don't believe 10-year-old girls should become mothers, they need their votes right now. And speak to people, right? And speak to people. Hey, white community, listen. If you're poor and you're white, or you're middle class and you're white, and this person's Asian and they're poor, or middle class, or this person's African American, poor middle class, or Native American, right? Or Latino, poor and middle class, what it might be. We're all the same people. We're all the same people. And you vote economics, not color of the skin. Thank you for being my YouTube channel. One race, human race, all human. God bless you and God keep you. Today is Wednesday, October 26, 2022.